The stars above Kepler 442b were beautiful tonight. Park Doan stood on the balcony of the administration building and watched them shine. 12 years ago, he had left Earth on a ship with 8,000 other people. They had traveled for months through the cold darkness of space. Now, this distant world was home. They called their colony New Bizin. It was a good name. It reminded them of the ocean city back on Earth, where many of them had been born. There was no ocean here, but there were green fields now. There were houses and schools and hospitals. Children who had been born on the journey were now 12 years old. Running through streets they had helped build. Duhan was proud of what they had created. He was the colony administrator, chosen by the people to lead them. It was not an easy job. Every day brought new problems. Water systems breaking, crops failing, arguments between neighbors. But these were good problems. They were the problems of people who were alive and building something real. His communicator beeped. He looked at the small screen and felt his heart stop. "Sir, you need to come to the control room," said Han Taiho, the young communications officer. His voice was shaking. "We are receiving a transmission. It is not from Earth." Dohan ran. The control room was in chaos when he arrived. Every screen showed the same thing. A fleet of ships, enormous beyond imagination, entering their solar system. There were at least 50 of them. The smallest was bigger than their entire colony. "What are they?" Dohan asked. Kim Yuna, the chief engineer, was already working at her station. She was a small woman with tired eyes and hands that were always busy. "Unknown design. Unknown materials. Their technology is far beyond anything we have seen. They are hailing us," Taiho said. His young face was pale with fear. He was only 23 years old. He had never seen anything like this. None of them had. "Put it through," Dohan said. The main screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature was tall and covered in dark scales. Its eyes were yellow with black slits, like a snake. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "I am Fleet Commander Velther of the Dominion," it said. "You are in Dominion space. Your presence here is a violation of galactic law." Doan stepped forward. "I am Park Doan, administrator of the human colony of New Bizin. We did not know this space belonged to anyone. We came here in peace." Velther made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace? You misunderstand your situation, human. The Dominion does not negotiate with lesser species. You have two choices. Surrender and become a tribute species, serving the Dominion forever, or resist and be destroyed." Dohan felt the eyes of his people on him. Engineers, farmers, teachers, families who had trusted him to lead them to a better life. "What does it mean to be a tribute species?" he asked. "Your strongest will work in our mines. Your smartest will serve our scientists. Your children will be raised to serve the Dominion. Your culture, your history, your identity, these things will end. You will become what we need you to be." Behind Doan, someone made a small sound of horror. He thought it might be Choi Somi, the medical officer. She had 3 children of her own. "And if we refuse?" Doan asked. "Then my fleet will reduce your colony to ash. We have done this to hundreds of worlds. You will not be special." The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Lee Ji-won, the security chief, stepped forward. He was a big man with a scarred face. Before becoming a colonist, he had been a soldier on Earth. He had seen war. He had seen death. "How much time do we have?" he asked. "They said 3 of their cycles," Taiho answered. "Based on their transmission, I calculate that is approximately 72 Earth hours." 3 days, Ji-won said. He looked at Dawn. "What are your orders, Administrator?" Dahan looked around the room. He saw fear in every face. But he saw something else too. He saw the same thing he had seen when they left Earth. The same thing he had seen when they landed on this empty world and started building with nothing but their hands and their hope. He saw determination. "Call a colony meeting," Dohan said. "Everyone, every adult. We vote." 2 hours later, 8,000 people gathered in the central square. Many had come straight from their beds. Parents held sleeping children. Old people leaned on young ones. Everyone was afraid. Doan stood on the platform and told them everything. He did not hide the truth. He told them about the Dominion. He told them about the choice they faced. Surrender or fight. "We have no warships," he said. "We have no weapons. We have farming tools and mining equipment. By every measure, fighting's madness. But I will not make this choice for you. We are a colony. We decide together." An old woman raised her hand. Her name was Grandmother Bong. She had been 90 years old when they left Earth. Now she was over 100. "I left Korea when I was a young woman," she said. "I saw my country divided. I saw war. I saw occupation. I came to space because I believed humans deserved better. I did not travel across the stars to become a slave." One by one, others spoke. A farmer named Shin talked about the fields he had planted. A teacher named Oh talked about the children she taught. A young engineer named Beek talked about the machines he had built with his own hands. Finally, Dohan called for the vote. "All in favor of surrender? Raise your hand." Not a single hand went up. "All in favor of fighting?" 8,000 hands rose toward the stars dot in orbit. Aboard his flagship, Commander Velther received the report. The humans had refused to surrender. He found this amusing. Every species tried to resist at first. They all learned eventually. His science officer, a tall female named Kira, was studying the human biological data from their transmission. She looked troubled. "Commander," she said, "I am detecting unusual readings in their biochemistry. Their stress hormones are very high, as expected. But there is another chemical signature I cannot identify." Velther dismissed her concerns. It does not matter what chemicals flow through their bodies. They are primitives. They have no technology. They have no military. This will be over in hours. But Kira continued to study the data. She had helped conquer many worlds. She had seen many species face destruction. None of them had ever shown readings like this. The humans were afraid. But they were also something else. She just did not know what that something else was yet. Lee Ji-wan had not slept in 40 hours. He stood in the underground shelter beneath the colony hospital, looking at a map of New Bizen on the wall. Red circles marked important buildings. Blue lines showed roads and tunnels. Green dots showed where his people were hiding. "We cannot win a straight fight," he said to the small group gathered around him. "Their soldiers are bigger, stronger, and better armed than us. So we will not give them a straight fight." Kim Yuna nodded. She had dark circles under her eyes, but her mind was sharp as ever. "I have been studying their ships. Their technology uses power systems very different from ours. But all technology has weaknesses. What do you need?" Jiwan asked. "Time, and access to every piece of equipment in the colony. Mining charges, farming chemicals, power cells, everything. You have it." Choi Somi, the medical officer, raised her hand. She was a kind woman with a gentle face, but there was steel in her eyes now. "I have been analyzing the biological data from their transmission. These aliens have calcium-based skeletal systems, similar to our own. But their skin is porous. They absorb chemicals through contact. What does that mean for us?" Jiwan asked. Somi smiled. It was not a kind smile. It means the nitrogen-rich fertilizer we use for our crops will burn through their skin like acid. The Dominion ground forces landed at dawn on the second day. Their dropships descended through the clouds, massive and black like metal mountains falling from the sky. Each ship carried 200 soldiers. Commander Velther had sent 10 ships. 2,000 warriors, bred for conquest, armed with weapons that could cut through steel. The lead commander was a battle-hardened veteran named Threk. He had destroyed colonies on 15 worlds. He had never lost a single battle dot as the ramps lowered. Threk looked out at the human colony. It was quiet. Empty streets. Silent buildings. The humans had fled, as all species fled when the Dominion came. Spread out, Threk ordered. Secure the administrative center first. Kill any who resist. His soldiers moved through the streets in perfect formation. Their heavy boots made the ground shake. They checked every corner, every doorway, every shadow. They found nothing. Where are they? One soldier asked. Hiding underground, most likely, Threk answered. Like animals. We will dig them out. They reached the first intersection. The hydroponics district was to their left, large greenhouses where the humans grew their food. The residential zone was ahead. The administrative building was to the right. Threk pointed right. This way. We take their leader first. The patrol moved forward. They did not notice that the street behind them had sealed shut. Heavy blast doors, hidden in the walls, had slid silently into place. They did not notice that the street ahead was slightly darker than it should be. They did not notice, until it was too late, that the ground beneath their feet was not solid. The first row of soldiers fell through the false floor. They dropped 10 meters into the irrigation channels below. But the channels were not filled with water anymore. Screaming. That was the first sound Threk heard. His soldiers, screaming in agony as the chemical mixture that Yuna and Somi had created ate through their porous skin. It is a trap, Threk shouted. Fall back. But there was nowhere to fall back to. The blast doors had sealed the street. And now, from hidden vents in the walls, a thick white gas was pouring into the air. Threk held his breath, but it was already too late. The gas was not poison. It was worse. It was a sedative mixed with a chemical that made muscle spasm and cramp. His soldiers began to fall, their bodies twitching, their weapons dropping from their hands. In the control room, Kim Yuna watched through security cameras. Her hands moved across the control panel, opening and closing doors, activating traps, venting oxygen from sealed sections. Sector 7 is clear, she reported. 42 enemy soldiers neutralized. Park Doan stood beside her. His face was grim. How many did we lose? None. The traps worked perfectly. In the greenhouse district, another patrol was having the same experience. They had entered what looked like an empty farming dome. The door sealed behind them. Then the sprinkler system activated, but instead of water, it sprayed the same corrosive chemical mix. In the residential zone. Dominion soldiers kicked down doors to find empty rooms. But the rooms were not really empty. Motion sensors triggered explosions as soon as they entered. Mining charges, small but powerful, hidden under furniture and inside walls. By midday, Threk had lost 300 soldiers. He had not even seen a single human. Aboard the flagship, Commander Velther received the reports with growing disbelief. His ground forces were being destroyed by farmers, by teachers, by people who had never held a weapon in their lives. How is this possible? He demanded. Kira had the answer, but he did not want to hear it. They are adapting, she said. Every hour, their tactics become more refined. They are learning our movement patterns, our communication frequencies, our biology. They are using everything against us. They are primitives. They are survivors, Kira said quietly. That is something different. Down on the surface, Li Jiwan moved through the tunnel system beneath the colony. These tunnels had been dug for mining. Now they were highways, allowing the colonists to move unseen while the Dominion soldiers searched. Empty streets above. He found Kim Yuna in the engineering hub. She was covered in grease and looked exhausted, but she was smiling. "I found something interesting in their dropships," she said. "Their engines use a plasma containment system. Very advanced, but also very unstable if you introduce the right contaminant." "How do we introduce a contaminant?" "I have been working on that." "Do you know what happens when you mix hydrogen and carbon dioxide at high pressure?" Jiwan did not know. But from the look on Yuna's face, he knew the Dominion was about to find out. On the second night, the colonists launched their first offensive strike. Small teams, armed with nothing but homemade explosives and farming tools modified into weapons, attacked the landed dropships. They did not try to destroy the ships. They just needed to get close enough to pour Yuna's chemical mixture into the engine intakes. 3 teams were killed. 17 colonists dead. Their bodies left on the landing field as a warning. But 4 teams succeeded at dawn on the 3rd day. When the Dominion tried to launch reinforcement dropships, 4 of them exploded before they left the ground. The plasma containment failure created explosions so powerful that they destroyed 2 more ships that were parked nearby. In his command center, Velther stared at the damage reports. He had lost 500 ground soldiers, 6 dropships, a significant portion of his landing force, and he had not captured a single human, for the first time in 300 years of conquest. Commander Velther felt something he had never felt before. He felt doubt. Commander Velther stood on the bridge of his flagship and made a decision. He was tired of games. He was tired of traps. He was tired of these primitive creatures making fools of his soldiers. "Prepare orbital bombardment," he ordered. "Target the outer districts. We will burn them out." The weapons officer looked nervous. "Commander, our ground forces are still in the city. Pull them back to the landing zone. The humans have made their choice. Now they will see what true power looks like." Across the colony, the alert sirens began to scream. In the underground shelters, families held each other close. Parents covered their children's ears. Old people prayed quietly. They had known this might happen. They had prepared for it. But knowing and experiencing were different things. Park Doan found Han Taiho in the communications room. The young officer was working frantically at his station, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "What are you doing?" Doan asked. Taiho did not look up. "Something that probably will not work. But I have to try." On his screen, lines of alien code scrolled past. Taiho had been studying the Dominion's communication signals for 2 days straight. He had not slept. He had barely eaten. But he had learned something important. "Their encryption is advanced," he explained, still typing. "But they rely on a central communication hub. All ships talk to each other through the flagship. If I can access that hub, you can access their entire network," Dohan finished. Taiho finally looked up. His eyes were red with exhaustion, but they were also bright with hope. "I need 10 more minutes." Dohan put a hand on his shoulder. "You have 5. The bombardment starts soon." In orbit, the Dominion fleet moved into position. 50 warships, each carrying enough firepower to destroy a continent, turned their weapons toward the small colony below. On the flagship, the weapons officer reported that all systems were ready. "Fire," Velther commanded. The first missiles launched. Bright streaks of light descended toward the planet's surface. They hit the outer agricultural district. The explosions were massive. Fields that colonists had spent years cultivating were turned to ash in seconds. Storage buildings filled with food for the winter were vaporized, but the residential zones were untouched. The administrative center still stood. The weapons officer checked his readings with confusion. "Commander, The targeting data appears to be wrong. Wrong? What do you mean wrong? More missiles launched. They hit empty fields, abandoned mining sites, the wreckage of the dropships that had already been destroyed. In the communications room, Han Taiho was laughing and crying at the same time. It had worked. His hack had worked. He was inside the Dominion's communication network, feeding them false targeting coordinates. I cannot keep this up forever, he told Doan. They will figure it out soon. How long can you give us? Maybe an hour. Maybe less. Doan nodded. Then we need to move now. Kim Yuna was waiting for him in the mining hangar. Behind her sat 3 ore haulers, big, ugly ships designed to carry rocks from the asteroid belt. They had never been meant for combat. Now they were covered in welded metal plates. Mining lasers, normally used to cut through stone, had been mounted on their fronts. Their cargo holds were filled with the most explosive material the colonists had, unrefined titanium ore mixed with oxygen tanks. They are not pretty, Yuna said, but they will fly. And if we can get close enough. Doan understood. These ships were missiles, flying bombs, and someone would have to pilot them. I will take one, he said. Sir, you are the administrator. You should stay. I should be with my people. He looked at the other 2 ships. Who else? A young farmer named Shin stepped forward. He was barely 30 years old. His wife had been killed in the first bombardment. I will go. An old engineer named Beak raised her hand. She was 62 years old and had arthritis in her fingers. I have lived a good life. Let me make my death mean something. They did not have time for long goodbyes. Yuna showed them the basic controls. The ships were simple thrust, steering, and a button that would release the cargo hold. That was all they would need. In orbit, Velther had finally realized something was wrong with his targeting systems. His technicians were working frantically to find the problem. Commander, the sensor officer shouted. 3 small vessels launching from the surface. Velther looked at his screen. 3 tiny ships climbing slowly toward his fleet. They were so small, so primitive, so obviously not a threat. Destroy them, he ordered. The fleet's defense cannons opened fire. Bright beams of energy filled the space around the climbing ships. The first ship, piloted by Shin, took a direct hit. It exploded in a ball of fire. Beak's ship was hit next. But she had anticipated this. She had already set her course and locked the controls. Even as her ship broke apart around her, the burning wreckage continued on its path. It struck a Dominion cruiser in the center of its hull. The titanium ore ignited on impact. The explosion was so bright that sensors across the fleet went blind for 3 seconds. When they recovered, the cruiser was gone, completely destroyed. 2 nearby ships had taken heavy damage from the debris, and Park, Dohan's ship, was still coming. Velther's flagship was the command center of the entire fleet. It was larger than any other ship, more heavily armed, more heavily shielded, but it was also less maneuverable. Dohun pushed his engines to maximum. Warning lights flashed all around him. The hull groaned under the stress. Defense cannons fired at him, hitting his ship again and again. Metal peeled away. Systems failed. Fire broke out in the cargo hold, but he kept flying at the last moment. Just before impact, he hit the eject button. His survival pod launched backward as his ship continued forward, directly into the flagship's engine section. The explosion was enormous. Velther was thrown from his command chair. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. The lights flickered, then failed, then came back on emergency red. Damage report, Velther shouted. Engines destroyed, his officer reported. Primary power offline. Life support on backup. We are disabled, Commander. Velther could not believe what he was hearing. His flagship, the pride of the Dominion fleet, had been crippled by a cargo ship flown by a farmer down on the planet's surface. Taiho had been watching through his hacked connection to the Dominion sensors. He saw Dohan's escape pod tumbling toward the atmosphere. "He is alive," Taiho announced. "The administrator is alive." Cheers erupted in the shelter. People hugged each other. Some cried with relief. Others laughed with joy. Choi, Somi was already running toward the medical bay. "Get me a location on that pod. We need to recover him before the Dominion does." In orbit, Kira watched the chaos unfolding around her. Emergency crews rushed to contain fires. Officers shouted orders that no one could follow. The great Commander Velther stood on his broken bridge, staring at the view screen with an expression she had never seen before. Fear. For the first time in 300 years. A Dominion fleet commander activated his emergency beacon. The message that went out to Dominion headquarters was simple and unprecedented, requesting immediate reinforcement. Fleet compromised. Enemy resistance beyond expected parameters. The humans had done the impossible. They had made the Dominion ask for help. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. In the great halls of the Dominion homeworld, senators whispered to each other in disbelief. A human colony, a species most of them had never heard of, had crippled a Dominion fleet. Commander Velther, the conqueror of 15 star systems, had sent a distress signal. In the slave quarters of mining worlds, members of conquered species heard the rumors and dared to hope. The Threllians, small blue-skinned people who had surrendered to the Dominion 300 years ago, spoke quietly in their bunks. The Voos Collective, a hive mind species forced to work in Dominion factories, shared the information through their neural links. The people of Meridian 7, who had watched their entire civilization destroyed because they had tried to resist, wept with a strange mixture of grief and joy. If the humans could fight, perhaps resistance was not impossible after all. On Nubizan, the colonists had no time to celebrate. Park Doan had been recovered from his escape pod. He was alive, but badly injured. 3 broken ribs, a fractured arm, burns on his hands and face from the fire that had erupted before he ejected. Choi, Somi treated him in the underground medical bay. She worked quickly but carefully, setting bones and applying healing patches. "You should be dead," she told him. Dohan managed a weak smile. "My mother always said I was too stubborn to die." "Your mother was right." She finished wrapping his ribs and looked at him seriously. "You cannot do that again. We need you alive." "I know." He sat up slowly, wincing at the pain. "What is our situation?" Lee Jiwan entered the medical bay with a tablet. His face was grim. "The flagship is disabled, but the rest of their fleet is still operational. 49 warships. They have pulled back to high orbit, out of range of any attacks we could make. They are waiting for reinforcements," Dohan said. "Yes, based on their communications, which Taiho is still monitoring, 3 more fleets are on their way. They will arrive in approximately 4 days. 4 days. Dohan closed his eyes. They had fought so hard. They had sacrificed so much. Shin and Beak had given their lives. Nearly 200 colonists had died in the bombardment and the fighting. And it was not enough. "We cannot fight 3 more fleets," he said quietly. "No," Jiwan agreed. "We cannot." The silence in the medical bay was heavy. Then Yuna's voice came over the communication system. "Administrator? There is someone here who wants to talk to you." A Dominion officer. She came down under a white flag. An hour later, Kira sat across from Park Dawn in what had once been a school classroom. The walls were decorated with children's drawings of the colony pictures, of houses and fields and the strange new flowers that grew on this world. Kira looked at these drawings for a long time before speaking. "I have conquered many worlds," she said. Her voice was different than Velther's, softer, more thoughtful. I have seen many species face destruction. I have always believed the Dominion was right, that we brought order to chaos, civilization to primitives, and now? Dawn asked. Now I am not sure what I believe. She looked at him directly. Why do you fight? You must know you cannot win. 3 more fleets will be here in 4 days. You have no ships, no weapons, no hope. Why not surrender? Dohan did not answer immediately. Instead, he pointed to one of the children's drawings on the wall. It showed a family, a father, a mother, 2 children standing in front of a house. Above them, the sky was filled with stars. The child who drew that is named Yunji, he said. She's 8 years old. She was born on the ship that brought us here. She has never seen Earth. This world, this colony, is the only home she knows. He looked at Kira with steady eyes. What will happen to Yunji if we surrender? Kira did not answer. She did not need to. They both knew what happened to children of tribute species. We fight because we have no choice, Dohon continued. Not because we think we can win, but because surrender means giving up everything that makes us who we are. Our families, our culture, our freedom, our children's futures. But you will die. Everyone dies eventually. The question is what you are willing to die for. Kira was silent for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the window. Outside, colonists were working to repair the damage from the bombardment. She saw humans carrying supplies, treating wounded, rebuilding walls. Children were helping, carrying small loads alongside their parents. I have seen many species face conquest, she said without turning around. Some fight at first, but they always give up eventually. They calculate the odds. They see that resistance is futile. They surrender to save themselves. Humans are different? Dahan asked. Kira finally turned to face him. Yes, I have studied your biology, your psychology, your history. You are different. When other species are threatened, they become afraid. They become weak. But humans, you become something else. What do we become? Dangerous. She paused. The more pressure we apply to you, the harder you push back. Every weapon we use against you teaches you something new. Every attack makes you more determined. It is as if you draw power from your own suffering. Dahan nodded slowly. We call it many things. Stubbornness, determination, hope, but yes, when everything is against us, that is when we are strongest. Kira returned to her seat. I came here to understand you. Now I do, and I am afraid. Of us? Of what will happen next? 3 fleets are coming. They will glass your planet from orbit. Nothing will survive. And the galaxy will never know what you did here. Your story will be erased. Your sacrifice will mean nothing. She leaned forward. Unless someone tells that story. Dahan looked at her carefully. What are you saying? I have access to the Dominion communication network. I can send a transmission to every corner of the Empire. I can tell them what happened here, what you did, what you fought for. She paused. The Dominion's power comes from belief. Everyone believes resistance is impossible. If they see that it is not, they might start to question. Dohun finished. They might do more than question. Kira stood. I do not know if this will save you. Probably it will not. But at least your story will be told. At least other species will know that someone stood up. Someone refused to kneel. Dohan was quiet for a long moment. Then he held out his uninjured hand. Kira looked at it with confusion. It is a human greeting, Dohan explained. We shake hands to show trust, to seal agreements. Slowly, Kira reached out and took his hand. Her scales were cool and smooth against his skin. "Tell our story," Dohan said. "Whatever happens next, make sure the galaxy knows." "I will," Kira promised. "I swear it." That night, as the damaged Dominion fleet hung in orbit above New Bizen, a transmission began broadcasting on every Dominion frequency. It showed footage of the battle humans fighting with farming tools, mining charges destroying dropships, a cargo hauler ramming into the flagship. It showed Dahan's words about why they fought. It showed the children's drawings on the classroom walls. And across the galaxy, billions of beings watched Dot for the first time in centuries. They saw something they had forgotten was possible. They saw hope. The Dominion Council met in the Great Chamber on their homeworld. It was the largest room ever built, a dome of black stone and silver metal that could hold 10,000 beings. But today, only the 12 members of the High Council sat at the central table, their faces lit by holographic displays showing reports from across the Empire. "This is unacceptable," the first speaker declared. His scales were gray with age, but his voice was still strong. "3 fleets are on their way to eliminate this pest. The matter will be resolved within a week. Will it?" asked another council member, a female named Thora. She gestured to her display. "Look at these reports. The transmission from the human colony has been viewed by over 4 billion beings. Slave populations on 17 worlds have stopped working. There are rumors of organized resistance on Meridian 7. Rumors. Nothing more. For now." Thora leaned forward. "But how long before rumors become action? The humans have shown the galaxy that the Dominion can be hurt, that we can be fought. That is a very dangerous idea." The council argued for hours. Some wanted to make an example of the humans, to destroy them so completely that no one would ever dare resist again. Others worried that such brutality would only prove the humans' point and inspire more rebellion. Finally, the first speaker made a decision. "We will send a delegation to observe. If the humans surrender, we will show mercy. Public mercy. We will demonstrate that the Dominion rewards obedience. And if they do not surrender," the first speaker's eyes were cold, "then we will glass their planet and claim it was empty all along. The story will be suppressed. The humans will be forgotten." But even as he spoke, reports were coming in from across the Empire. The story could not be suppressed. It had spread too far, too fast. On mining worlds and factory planets and agricultural colonies, conquered species were watching the footage from New Bizen again and again, and they were asking themselves a question: if the humans can fight, why can't we? On New Bizen, the colonists spent their final days doing something unexpected. They lived. Schools reopened in the underground shelters. Teachers taught classes while children sat on makeshift benches. A young woman named Park taught mathematics. An old man named Song taught history, including the history of what they had just experienced taught in the medical bay. Choi Somi treated patients and trained volunteers. She knew that when the next attack came, she would need all the help she could get. In the engineering section, Kim Yuna continued to work on defenses. She knew they could not stop 3 fleets, but maybe she could make the cost high enough that the Dominion would think twice before attacking the next human colony. And there would be a next human colony. If they fell, others would come after them. Li Jiwan organized patrols and trained civilians in basic combat techniques. Most of them would never use what he taught them, but the training gave them purpose. It gave them something to do besides wait for Death Dot, and Park Dohan, still healing from his injuries, walked through the shelters and talked to his people. He listened to their fears. He answered their questions. He held children who were scared and told them stories about Earth, about oceans and mountains and cities, full of millions of people. He reminded them that they were not alone. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were still living, still dreaming, still reaching for the stars. On the 4th day, The 3 Dominion fleets arrived. 150 warships filled the sky. Above New Bizen, the smallest of them was 10 times larger than any human vessel. Their weapons could reduce the entire planet to molten rock. But instead of attacking, they waited. A new transmission came down from the fleet. This time, it was not Commander Velther. It was a member of the High Council Thora herself. "People of New Bizon," she said, "the Dominion Council has reviewed your case. We have decided to offer you one final opportunity. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly. Your colony will be allowed to continue. Your people will not be enslaved. You will become a protected species under Dominion law." In the control room, Dahun looked at the others. Jiwon, Yuna, Somi, Taiho. They had fought so hard. They had lost so much. And now they were being offered a way out. "What do you think?" he asked. Jiwon spoke first. "I do not trust them." "Neither do I," Yuna agreed. "Protected species is just another word for slaves with better conditions." Somi nodded. "They are afraid of us. That is why they are offering terms. They would rather we surrender quietly than fight again and inspire more rebellion." Taiha, the youngest of them, raised his hand. "Can I say something?" Doan nodded. "My grandmother used to tell me stories about Korea," Taiho said. "About our history. We were invaded many times, conquered many times, but we always survived. We always kept our culture, our language, our identity, because we refused to give up who we were." He looked at the others. "If we surrender, we might survive. But will we still be human? Will our children still be free? Or will we become just another species that gave up when things got hard?" Dohan put his hand on Taiho's shoulder. "Well said." He turned to face the communication screen. "Open a channel." Thora appeared on the screen, waiting for his answer. "The people of New Bizen thank the Dominion Council for their offer," Dohan said. "But we reject it. We will not surrender. We will not give up our freedom. We will not kneel." Thora's expression did not change. "You understand what will happen now?" "We do. Your entire species will be classified as hostile. Human space will be considered Dominion territory. Any human vessel encountered will be destroyed." Dawn smiled. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. "Good luck with that." Thora paused. For just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Was it doubt? Fear? "You are very brave," she said finally. "Or very foolish. Maybe both." Dawn leaned forward. "But before you attack, I want you to think about something. We are one colony, 8,000 people, farmers and teachers and children. And we crippled your fleet. We killed hundreds of your soldiers. We made you call for reinforcements." He gestured at the screens around him, showing footage from the past week. "Now imagine what 100 human colonies could do. 1,000. Imagine if humans decided that you were a threat that needed to be eliminated. We are not a peaceful species, Council member. We've been fighting wars since before your civilization learned to make fire. We are very, very good at it." Thora was silent. "The Dominion has a choice," Dohung continued. "You can glass our planet and claim victory. But every species in your empire saw what happened here. They will know the truth. And eventually, they will do what we did. They will fight back. And you will lose. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. Or," Doan said, "you can leave. Declare this region of space forbidden. Pretend you never found us. And maybe, just maybe, humans and the Dominion never have to fight again." The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Then Thora spoke. "The Council will deliberate." The screen went dark. 12 hours later, the fleets turned and left. A formal treaty was transmitted to the colony. Human space was declared sovereign territory. No Dominion vessel would enter within 50 light years without permission. The humans were classified not as a tribute species, not as a conquered people, but as something new, a species to be avoided. In his disgraced chamber on the homeworld, former Commander Velter watched the news with bitter satisfaction. He had warned them. He had told them what humans were capable of. And now the entire galaxy would learn what he had learned in those terrible days above New Bizen. Humans were not to be conquered. They were to be feared. On New Bizen, the colonists emerged from their shelters for the first time in days. They looked up at the empty sky and breathed free air. Children ran through the streets, laughing. Adults hugged each other and wept. Park Doan stood on the balcony of the administration building, the same balcony where he had watched the stars on the night this all began. Beside him stood Yuna, Jiwon, Somi, and Taiho, the people who had fought beside him, the people who had made the impossible possible. 243 dead, Doham said quietly. We can never forget that. We won't, Somi promised. Below them, colonists were already starting to rebuild. Walls were going back up. Fields were being replanted. Life was continuing. In the years that followed, the story of New Bizan spread across the galaxy. Not through Dominion channels, they tried to suppress it, but through whispers and secret transmissions and the hope that passed from one enslaved species to another. And slowly, things began to change. The Threllians stopped working in the mines. The Voss Collective began to resist their programming. The survivors of Meridian 7 started organizing. The Great Dominion, which had ruled unchallenged for 300 years, began to crack. And everywhere, in every corner of known space, one lesson was learned. One truth was accepted. One warning was passed from generation to generation. Never threaten a human colony, because humans do not surrender. Humans do not break. And a human with something to protect is the most dangerous thing in the universe.